Tonight, we travel back. Way back. Before cars. Before phones. Before alarm clocks that scream at you in the morning. We're in medieval England, somewhere around the late 1300s, and it's raining. Of course, it's raining. The kind of rain that doesn't rush anywhere. It just falls, steady and thoughtful, tapping softly on the thatched roofs of a quiet village. You can almost smell it, that rich, earthy scent after rain, mixed with smoke from wood fires and damp wool cloaks hanging by cottage doors. It's night now, and the world feels smaller, calmer. The hills roll like sleeping giants under a blanket of fog. A thin mist curls around old oak trees and the cobbled road leading down to the river Dot, somewhere in the distance. A dog gives one lazy bark and goes back to sleep. Because, really, what else can you do on a night like this? The village is half-dash asleep. Tiny windows glow with flickering candlelight. Inside, families sit close to the hearth, sharing bowls of stew and soft bread that's been baked earlier in the day. There's a comforting clatter of spoons, a few quiet laughs, and the gentle hiss of the rain outside. If you listen carefully, you can even hear it tapping against the wooden shutters, like it's playing its own lullaby. The streets are empty now. Just puddles, reflecting little pinpoints of torchlight from the watchtower. A single horse trots by, hooves making that soft clop, clop sound against the wet stones. The rider hunches under a cloak, probably wishing he'd stayed by the fire to dot England in the 14th century isn't a peaceful place everywhere. But tonight, in this little corner of the kingdom, it feels safe. There are no battles here, no shouting lords, no taxes being collected, at least not right this second. Just the rain, the quiet, and 1,000 small fires burning behind thick stone walls, up on a hill. A castle watches over it all. It's not one of those huge fairy tale castles, more like a sturdy stone keep, built to survive storms and the occasional invasion. Its tall tower pokes through the mist, torchlights glowing along the battlements. Inside, guards pace slowly, their chainmail whispering with each step. They grumble about the weather. Of course, even medieval guards complained about night shifts. Out in the fields, the world has gone completely still. Sheep huddle together under a crooked oak tree, looking like lumpy shadows in the rain. A fox slips quietly through the grass, clever and unseen, and the wind moves through the valley in a low hum, the kind of sound that makes you pull your blanket a little tighter. Close your eyes and imagine what life might have been like here. You'd wake up with the sunrise, work in the fields, and probably fall asleep before the first star even blinked. No scrolling, no street noise, just the rhythm of the land and the sound of rain to end the day. The roads glisten under the torchlight, turning to thin streams of silver. Somewhere, a church bell tolls the late hour, one deep note that rolls across the valley, mixing with the rain. The mist thickens as the narrator, that's you and me, for tonight, drifts down the main path, passing the little cottages. A few chickens rustle inside their coops. A black cat darts across the road like a shadow, tail flicking. The smell of wet hay, wood smoke, and bread still lingers in the air. It's the kind of smell that makes you want to sit by a fire, sip something warm, and listen to a story. And lucky for you, we've got plenty of that ahead. Now, you might be wondering, was medieval life really this calm? Not always. Most days, there were chores from sunrise to sunset, tending animals, chopping wood, or hauling water from the well. But on nights like this, when the rain sang and the fires crackled, people slowed down. They'd share stories about knights and dragons, ghosts in the forest, or saints who performed miracles. Children would listen wide-eyed until they fell asleep, heads resting on their mothers' laps. Maybe someone would take out a lute or a little pipe and play a slow tune. Nothing fancy. Just a few notes to fill the silence between THUNDRCLAPS. It's funny. They didn't have much, but they had peace, and in a way, that's what this whole story is about. The quiet beauty of ordinary moments in a very old, very rainy world, out beyond the village. The road winds through the hills toward the castle. The mud squishes under boots, and the rain makes soft ripples in the puddles. A lantern swings from a guard post, throwing a warm orange glow into the mist. Somewhere above, the clouds shift just enough to reveal a slice of pale moonlight. It spills over the fields and rooftops, turning the wet earth into silver and shadow. A moment later, thunder murmurs far off, like a sleepy giant rolling over in his bed. And then, silence again. The kind of deep, heavy silence that makes even the rain seem shy. If you were standing here now, you'd hear every little thing. The drip of water from a stone wall, the sigh of wind through ivy, the faint sound of laughter echoing from a tavern window. You might even feel a bit of magic in the air. Not the kind from fairy tales, but the quiet kind, the kind that lives in old places. When the world slows down enough for you to notice it, that's the heart of medieval England. Not the battles or the kings, but the calm between them, the rain, the hearth, the stories whispered before sleep. So as the storm hums softly above the hills, and the castle lights flicker in the distance, let's settle in. The night is long, the fire is warm, and the world outside can wait till morning. The drizzle continues to fall, not harsh, just steady dot. Each drop feels like time itself, washing over centuries of stories, washing away the noise of the modern world. Somewhere in that sleepy little village, a candle is blown out, a door creaks, and the only thing left awake is the rain. The rain outside doesn't stop. It only changes its rhythm. What started as a steady drizzle now drums softly against the thick stone walls of the castle. Inside, it's another world, warmer, quieter, and full of little sounds that make you feel safe. The fire snaps in the great hearth. Wood pops and sighs as the flames dance, throwing orange light across the hall every few seconds. Thunder mumbles in the distance, like the sky complaining that it's past bedtime. The air smells of smoke, roasted meat, and damp wool cloaks drying near the fire. You can hear soft footsteps echoing off the stone floor. Servants moving about, whispering so they don't wake anyone important. Welcome to the keep, the heart of medieval life. It's strong, built to survive storms, time, and maybe even a dragon or two. A squire walks through the hall, rubbing his tired eyes. He's young, probably 16, with hair sticking to his forehead. He's been polishing his master's armor for hours. And honestly, it still looks about the same. A bit shinier, maybe, but still heavy as sin. He glances at the fire and mutters to himself. Knights sleep while squires shine. Then he gives the armor one last wipe, as if hoping the helmet will say thank you. It doesn't. The castle is full of small, ordinary moments like this. Nothing grand or dramatic, just quiet rhythm in the kitchens below. A cook stirs a pot of stew that's been simmering all night. You can almost taste it. Beef, onions, carrots, and barley. Every now and then, she gives the pot a glare, muttering that good stew doesn't hurry. She's right behind her. A young servant boy kneads dough on a big wooden table. His hands are covered in flour, and he keeps sneaking pieces of dough into his mouth when he thinks no one's looking. Spoiler: everyone sees him. The kitchen is the warmest place in the castle. There's laughter here, and soft gossip about the knights upstairs, and the latest rumor that the Lord's horse might be cursed or just stubborn up above. The hall glows like a scene from an old painting. Tapestries hang from the walls, colorful ones that tell stories of battles and hunting trips. The firelight makes them move a little, like the figures are alive, shifting in the flicker of the flames. A few knights sit by the hearth, polishing their swords and boots, half listening to the rain. One of them yawns so wide you can practically hear his jaw pop. He leans back in his chair and says, "If it rains any harder, we'll have fish swimming through the courtyard." The others laugh, the quiet, tired kind of laughter that happens after a long day. One knight pulls out a small wooden cup and pours something dark and strong into it. "Warm wine," he says proudly, "for the soul." He takes a sip, winces, and mutters, "And for the sinuses." Not far away, our traveler, the weary one who arrived just before the storm, sits by the edge of the hall. Near the smaller fire, his cloak is dripping wet, boots muddy, hair plastered to his forehead. He's been on the road for days and still looks half asleep. The steward gave him a corner, a bowl of stew, and strict orders not to drip on the tapestries. He's grateful enough for that. He eats slowly, the warmth coming back into his hands. His eyes half closed as the rain hums outside. He's not a nobleman or a knight, just a traveler. Maybe a messenger, maybe a wandering storyteller. But tonight, he's safe, and in a medieval world, that's as good as gold. The castle has its rhythm, slow, steady, like breathing. Fire crackles. Servants whisper. Guards pace the halls. Somewhere, a dog barks at thunder and immediately regrets it in the ladies' chamber. Candlelight glows through a thin curtain. The lady herself sits quietly, mending a bit of embroidery while a maid brushes her hair. She listens to the sound of rain against the window and smiles softly. "Perfect night for sleep," she says. And her maid nods, barely awake herself. The sound of thunder rolls again, distant but deep, like a reminder that the world outside is wild and unpredictable. But here, inside the stone walls, everything feels calm safe, and timeless. Let's take a quiet walk down one of the long corridors. The floor is uneven. Stones cool underfoot. Torches flicker along the walls, their flames bending with each passing draft. You can hear the storm outside, faint, but present, like the castle is breathing in rhythm with the rain. A servant passes by carrying fresh wood for the fire. He nods politely and mutters, "Cold night, ain't it?" He's right. But here, it's a good kind of cold, the kind that makes the fire feel twice as warm. You might imagine castles as noisy places, filled with shouting and metal clanging. But at night, they're gentle. Everyone moves slower. Even the walls seem to hum quietly with age, as if they've seen too many winters to be bothered by one more storm. And you start to understand why people loved there keeps so much. It wasn't just the power or the protection. It was the feeling that no matter what happened outside, these stone walls would hold. Back in the great hall, the fire burns lower. The squire has finally given up on the armor and fallen asleep against the wall, his polishing cloth still in his hand. The knights have gone quiet, too. One is snoring softly. Another stares into the flames, lost in thought. The traveler pulls his cloak tighter, his eyes closing as he listens to the sound of rain echoing through the high stone ceiling. He's not home, but tonight, it feels close enough. Outside, the storm continues its song. Inside, the castle dreams with him, safe, sturdy, warm, and peaceful. There's a certain magic in places like this, not the kind with spells and dragons, but the quiet kind. The kind that lives in warmth shared during cold nights, in laughter echoing through stone, in stories whispered before sleep. So as the rain keeps falling beyond the thick castle walls, the night settles deeper, and somewhere between the thunder and the fire, the whole world drifts toward rest. The great hall is alive tonight, not loud, just full in that warm, human way. The fire burns high, painting gold across the stone walls, and the smell of roasted meat and smoke hangs in the air, like a memory that refuses to leave. Rain taps on the castle windows, steady and calm, a soft percussion to the low hum of laughter and clinking mugs. This is the knight's hall, where armor is heavy, but stories are even heavier. Wooden benches creak under men in chainmail and leather. Their swords rest nearby, gleaming faintly in the firelight, close enough to grab if needed. But tonight, no one's expecting trouble. Not unless someone insults the stew again. The table is long, made from thick oak and covered with bread, cheese, stew, and half-empty cups of ale. A serving boy moves between the benches, carrying a jug that's almost as big as he is. He refills mugs like it's a sacred duty, which, in a hall full of thirsty knights, it might just be. At the head of the table sits Sir Aldred, the oldest knight in the castle. His beard is gray, his face lined like weathered parchment, and his laugh sounds like gravel rolling down a hill. He's telling a story, one hand raised, mug in the other, about the time he faced a Saracen champion under the desert sun. They've heard this one before, but no one dares interrupt. It's a good story, and besides, Aldred tells it differently every time. And there I stood, he says, tapping his chest plate, proudly. No shield, no horse, just me and my courage. He pauses, and a rather terrified donkey. Laughter erupts down the table. Even the Lord's steward cracks a smile. The room feels alive, not with battle cries or speeches, but with belonging. These are men who've ridden through mud and snow, fought wars far from home, and yet, here, tonight, they're just friends sharing warmth. Their armor gleams faintly by the fire, polished steel and battered helmets, all carrying their own stories. One has a dent shaped like a boot. No one asks Dot. Between the laughter, there's quiet too. The kind that comes after a long life when words aren't always needed. And the fire says enough. At the far end, two squires sit shoulder to shoulder, whispering to each other. One's barely 16, trying to keep his eyes open. He's dreaming of becoming a knight, of battles, banners, and heroic songs. The other nudges him, awake. Eat now, he mutters. Dream later. They share a crust of bread and grin at each other. Proud just to be here. On a side table, a few knights are busy playing a medieval dice game. The kind that starts with laughter and ends with arguments about who's cheating. They roll the dice, slam the table, and cheer at their luck. Fortune favors the bold. One shouts, "Fortune favors my dice," says another, gathering his winnings. It's not exactly royal behavior, but that's the beauty of the hall. It's human. For all their codes of honor and their fancy titles, knights still laugh too loud, spill their drinks, and brag about battles that probably didn't go quite as they remember. But beneath all the humor and the noise, there's something deeper here, something sacred. Knighthood isn't just about swords and armor. It's about oaths, promises whispered by FIRELIGHT. Every knight here has sworn one, to protect the weak, to be loyal to their lord, to fight with courage and live with honor. They don't always keep those vows perfectly. No one does, but they try. And that's what makes it matter. A monk from the nearby abbey sits quietly in a corner, sipping from a wooden cup. He's the one who writes down the stories, the victories, the losses, the oaths. He watches the knights with a faint smile. They fight for glory, he murmurs, but they live for warmth. And maybe that's the truth of it. For all the tales of dragons and duels, the real heart of a knight's life is here, in laughter, in friendship. In a warm hall, on a rainy night, dinner fades into quiet conversation. Someone hums a tune, a slow, wistful melody, about home and the green hills of England. A few voices join in, off-key, but sincere. The sound mixes with the rain outside, soft and soothing. A squire starts to nod off, his head resting on his arm. One of the knights gently tosses a piece of bread at him. "Stay awake, boy," he grins. "You'll miss the part where I saved Sir Uldred from a goose." The old knight raises his mug. And I'm still haunted by it. Laughter again, light and tired and perfect. As the fire burns lower, shadows crawl along the walls. The hall quiets, the energy softens. Mugs are emptied, dice are pocketed, and the last loaf of bread disappears. A few men linger near the hearth, staring into the flames. They think about old battles, lost friends, and the strange peace that comes after the noise. The storm outside seems gentler now, as if it's listening too. Sir Aldred leans back in his chair, eyes half closed. He whispers, "We fight for kings and die for glory. But we live for nights like this." No one answers. They just nod, letting the fire say the rest. The hall grows quieter still. A servant gathers empty mugs. One by one, the knights drift away to their chambers. Boots echoing softly against stone. The last embers crackle in the fireplace. The great hall is nearly empty now. Just the fading warmth of the evening and the soft scent of smoke and stew somewhere above. The rain continues to fall, gentle and steady, wrapping the castle in its rhythm. And within these walls, sleep comes easily, even for men who faced 1,000 storms. Upstairs, above the laughter of the knight's hall and the steady hum of the kitchens, the castle grows quiet. The air feels softer, here calmer. You can still hear the rain, but it's a different sound now, distant, rhythmic, like a lullaby whispered through stone. This is the lady's solar, her private chamber, not grand or gold, covered like in fairy tales, but warm and elegant in a simple way. The kind of place where candles glow steady, floors creak softly, and everything smells faintly of lavender and beeswax. A fire burns low in the hearth, its light painting gentle orange across the tapestries. There's embroidery on the table, a half-finished pattern of red and gold thread, maybe a family crest, or a gift for a newborn nephew. Beside it lies a small book of prayers, its pages worn from years of quiet reading. Books are rare treasures, but this one is handled with love. The cover smells faintly of ink and leather, a comfort all its own. The lady herself sits near the window, her long dress gathered neatly at her feet. She's not wearing a crown, just a soft linen veil and a tired but kind smile. Her hands move slowly as she sews, her eyes glancing now and then at the rain beyond the glass. She's not bored, exactly, just thoughtful. Running a castle takes energy, the kind that doesn't shout or swing a sword, but somehow feels heavier than armor. Every candle lit, every fire kept burning, every loaf of bread baked or blanket mended. She keeps track of it all. Servants come and go through the day, carrying messages, linen, and the occasional complaint about someone's missing boots. She listens patiently to all of it. Sometimes she smiles and says, "Tell them to check under the table." It's almost always under the table. Her maid, Alice, young, freckled, and full of opinions, is nearby, brushing out the lady's hair. The brush moves gently, catching the light with every stroke. The lady closes her eyes for a moment and lets the rhythm of it blend with the rain. Alice hums softly, an old tune from the village, something about love or sheep, or maybe both. Hard to tell with those songs. Either way, it's sweet. Across the room, a small gray cat curls up near the fire. It blinks lazily, stretches once, and then decides that yes, this is, in fact, the best place in all of England to nap. A single paw twitches now and then, probably dreaming of chasing mice in the pantry. The lady glances at the cat and smiles. Even the animals know where the warmth is, she murmurs on the writing desk. A few letters rest in a neat pile, sealed with wax, edges slightly crinkled. She's written to her husband, who's away on the Lord's business, asking about his health and reminding him not to eat too much salted meat. She also asked him to send more honey and maybe some new thread colors if the merchants aren't too greedy this season. Letter writing is an art here, quiet, personal, full of care. Every word feels deliberate, written by candlelight with a quill that scratches softly on parchment. It's easy to imagine her voice while she writes, calm, gentle, and just a touch amused at the world. The chamber door creaks open. A servant steps in, holding a tray with warm broth and a little loaf of bread. "Your supper, my lady," she says softly. The lady nods, sets aside her needlework, and thanks her with a kind smile. The broth smells simple but comforting: herbs, onions, maybe a bit of chicken if the cook was feeling generous tonight. She eats slowly, savoring each bite while the rain hums against the windows. "You've outdone yourself," she says aloud, even though the cook isn't there to hear it. Later, she takes a slow walk through the corridor, her slippered feet whispering on the old wooden floor. The candles flicker as she passes, throwing shadows that stretch and sway like they're bowing in respect. The air is cool, carrying a faint scent of beeswax and smoke. She stops at one window and looks down into the courtyard. Below, torchlight glows through the rain, the guards making their rounds. Everything feels calm, steady, safe. The kind of peace that's easy to forget in stories about knights and wars. She returns to her chamber and finds her maid folding linen by the fire. A pot of herbs steams gently on the hearth: rosemary, thyme, and lavender. The scent fills the room, soothing and clean. The lady leans down to check on the herbs. "They'll help with Sir Aldred's cough," she says softly. "It's small things like this that keep the castle running, tending the ill, comforting the tired, managing the home." Her kind of strength is quiet, but it holds the whole place together. The rain outside deepens, steady and soft. Thunder murmurs far away, like it's drifting off to sleep. Inside, the candles burn low, tiny suns in a world of stone. The lady sits again by the window, embroidery in hand, cat at her feet, a faint smile on her lips. She listens to the fire, to the wind, to the castle breathing gently around her. If you listen closely, too, you might hear her hum just a few soft notes, fading into the rhythm of the rain. For a moment, time feels still. The world outside, the wars, the travels, the noise, all of it disappears. Here, in this warm chamber, high above the storm, life is simple. Just light, warmth, and the soft sound of rain on stone. Down below the castle walls, the night feels different. Not as grand, not as guarded, but somehow warmer. The air smells of wet hay, wood smoke, and freshly baked bread. And if you listen closely, you can hear laughter, the kind that carries softly through the rain. This is the village below the castle, the heartbeat of medieval life. Tiny cottages, their thatched roofs slick with rain, stand close together like friends huddling for warmth. Smoke curls from chimneys, glowing faintly in the night air. Every window flickers with firelight, turning the whole village into a scatter of golden stars beneath the castle hill. Inside one cottage, a family sits close by the hearth. The fire crackles, throwing shadows that dance along the walls. A pot of soup bubbles lazily. Onions, carrots, and maybe a bit of rabbit if the day was lucky. The father mends a leather strap by firelight, humming a tune with no particular rhythm. The mother kneads dew for tomorrow's bread, her sleeves rolled up and her hands dusted with flour. Their little boy watches the rain run down the window, eyes wide like he's seeing magic. Will the thunder scare the cows again? He asks, only if they forget their manners, the mother says, smiling. The boy giggles. The father chuckles too, though he's pretending not to listen. Simple moments like that. They keep the long nights soft and human. Next door, an old woman sits in her rocking chair, a cat curled on her lap. She's telling two children a story, something about a knight who once fought a dragon the size of a barn. The kids are wide-eyed, clutching their blankets. But when she gets to the part where the dragon sneezes and accidentally sets his own tail on fire, they laugh so hard they forget to be scared. The rain taps on the thatch above, soft and steady, keeping rhythm with her voice. Outside, the dirt paths have turned to puddles. A farmer in a wool cloak stands at his doorway, watching the rain fill his well. He smiles quietly. He knows this water will feed his crops come spring. He leans on his shovel, takes a deep breath of the cool, wet air, and mutters, "Good rain." About time. His dog sits beside him, tail wagging, probably agreeing just to be polite. Further down the path, a blacksmith's forge still glows faintly. The fire has died down, but the coals are still warm, humming softly in the dark. The blacksmith himself has gone inside, where his wife waits with stew and dry clothes. Outside, the tools rest where they were left. A hammer, an anvil, a half-finished horseshoe catching droplets of rain. The village may sleep, but work never really stops. It just takes a break, like a farmer resting his back before dawn. A little farther off, a shepherd checks on his sheep. He's wrapped in a thick cloak that probably smells like every rainy day he's ever known. The sheep don't seem to mind the weather. They stand quietly in their pen, wool soaked but spirits high. The shepherd pats one on the head. "You're a brave one, aren't you?" he says. The sheep sneezes right in his face. He wipes his nose, shakes his head, and mutters, "Aye, brave and rude." As the storm deepens, most of the village turns in for the night. Candles are snuffed out one by one, but the fires burn slow and steady, keeping the rooms warm. The smell of baking bread lingers in the air. A few villagers whisper good-night prayers for health, for harvest, for another peaceful day tomorrow. The castle guards on the walls above look down at the lights of the village. To them, it's more than just cottages and smoke. It's the life they protect. Without the villagers, the castle would stand empty and hungry. Without the castle, the villagers would face every storm and every danger alone. It's an unspoken bond, old as the stones themselves. Protection for labor, labor for protection, and in between, festivals, fairs, and enough ale to make everyone forget their sore feet. Speaking of festivals, the villagers love them. Even when the fields are muddy and the weather moody, they'll find a reason to celebrate. There's dancing, laughter, and bread so warm it melts the butter before it hits the crust. Children chase each other with wooden swords, pretending to be knights. The blacksmith plays the fiddle badly, and the baker's wife always sings too loud. But no one minds. It's all part of the charm. Back in the cottage, the storm begins to quiet. The thunder rolls away like a tired old traveler. The boy from earlier has fallen asleep by the fire, his small hand curled around a wooden toy horse. His mother drapes a blanket over him and sits beside her husband, both listening to the soft patter of rain. "It's a good sound," he says. "Aye," she replies, "the sound of everything growing." The old woman next door stops her story. The children yawn and curl up by the hearth. The cat stretches, blinks once, and goes back to sleep, which is basically a cat's full-time job anyway. Outside, the streets are empty now. Only the rain moves, tracing little rivers through the mud, washing away the day's footprints. It's peaceful, the kind of peace that doesn't need words. Seasons will change. The rain will give way to frost, and frost to flowers. The same hands that mended clothes tonight will sow seeds come spring. Life here moves in a circle, slow, steady, and full of quiet beauty. The castle may shine above, but the heart of the kingdom beats here, in these humble cottages, where laughter, work, and warmth live side by side. The storm has passed. The castle stands quiet on the hill, its torches glowing faintly against the night. Below, the village sleeps, and beyond the fields, the forest waits. A soft mist curls between the trees, like breath rising from the earth itself. The air is cool and sweet, heavy with the scent of moss, pine, and rain-soaked soil. Somewhere in the distance, water drips from a leaf, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. This is the ancient forest of medieval England, where time moves differently, slower, gentler, maybe even sideways. The trees here are old, older than the castle, older than the village, maybe older than the road that winds between them. Their trunks twist and groan, roots knotted deep into the damp ground. You can almost imagine them whispering to one another when the wind moves through there. Branches, a few monks' paths cut through the woods, narrow trails marked with mossy stones, leading from abbey to village. The monks walk these paths by lantern light, their hoods pulled low, muttering prayers to keep away spirits and wolves. It's said that if you listen close, you can still hear the echo of their footsteps, long after they've gone. Or maybe that's just the sound of a squirrel dropping acorns. Hard to tell. The mist thickens as you walk deeper. Every sound feels louder here. The drip of rain, the soft rustle of leaves, the flap of an owl's wings. There's no real danger, just that ancient wild feeling that the forest is alive. People in the village tell stories about this place. They always have. About knights who rode into the forest and never came back. About travelers who followed a strange light, thinking it was a cottage, but found only fog and the faint sound of laughter. Old tales told beside warm fires while rain fell on the roof. No one ever means to scare anyone, just to remind them that nature, like people, has its moods. By day, the forest is full of life. Birdsong, buzzing bees, foxes darting through ferns. But at night, it's a world of echoes. A stick breaks, maybe a deer. A branch creaks, or the forest sighing in its sleep. There's something peaceful about it, though. The kind of peace that hums in your chest instead of your ears. An owl hoot in the distance. Somewhere nearby, a tiny brook trickles between stones, carrying the rainwater down toward the fields. The moon hides behind clouds, but her silver light still finds ways to peek through painting streaks, across wet leaves and mist. A fox trots silently through the underbrush, its fur glistening with rain. It pauses, looks toward you, or maybe just at a sound you can't hear, then disappears, tail flicking like a whisper. There's an old oak in the heart of the forest, massive and scarred. Its roots bulge up like sleeping giants, and its trunk is wide enough that 3 men couldn't wrap their arms around it. Villagers call it the warden. They say it's been standing there since before the first king wore a crown. Under its branches, people used to leave offerings, a loaf of bread, a coin, sometimes a flower, just in case the old spirits were watching. Not out of fear, exactly. More like respect. It never hurts to stay on good terms with a tree that old. And then there are the fairy stories. Every village has them, about tiny lights that float through the mist, about laughter that fades when you turn to look. Most folks laugh them off. But still, no one really wants to test the forest alone after dark. One shepherd once swore. He saw a ring of mushrooms glowing in the moonlight. He said he heard music, strange, soft, and sad, and felt like the forest was breathing with him. When he blinked, it was gone. He never went near that spot again. But he told the story every winter for the next 20 years. Sometimes, though, the stories aren't frightening, just mysterious. Like the one about the hermit of the woods, an old man who lives deep among the trees, in a small hut by a stream. He said to heal travelers who get lost, trade honey for bread, and talk to birds as if they were old friends. The villagers call him Brother Rowan, though no one knows if that's his real name. He comes to the village once a year for salt and candles, then vanishes back into the mist. Some think he used to be a monk who left the abbey long ago. Others say he's just a kind man who prefers foxes to people. Either way, the forest seems to keep him safe as the night deepens. Fog gathers low on the ground, curling around roots and stones. You can see your breath, now faint white clouds against the dark. The forest hums softly, like it's singing itself to sleep, somewhere far away. A church bell tolls, slow, deep, carried on the wind. Maybe it's real. Maybe it's just the forest, echoing old sounds that never fade. Here, you can never quite tell where the world ends and the dream begins. A rabbit darts across the path, vanishing into ferns. The owl hoots again, closer this time. A drop of water falls from a high branch and lands on your shoulder. The forest seems to smile, or maybe that's just your imagination. You pause for a moment and breathe it all in the damp air. The hush of rain, the steady comfort of something ancient and endless. There's no fear here, just wonder. A reminder that even in darkness, life keeps growing quietly beneath the leaves. The storm has finally passed. What was once a night filled with rolling thunder and whispering rain has softened into a hush so peaceful it feels almost sacred. The sky, still heavy with pale mist, carries the faint chime of church bells from somewhere beyond the hills. Dong, dong, each note stretching gently across the damp morning air, like a yawn after a long, dreamy sleep. You can almost see the village waking up. The first ribbons of smoke begin to curl from crooked chimneys. The smell of wet wood mixes with the scent of baked bread from a distant oven. A rooster, probably the same one who never learned to keep quiet, announces that dawn has arrived. Just in case anyone missed the bells, somewhere up by the castle, guards change shifts at the gate. One man hands over his spear and rubs his tired eyes. The other, fresh-faced and probably regretting volunteering for early duty, stretches and stifles a yawn. Above them, the castle towers catch the first blush of sunlight, golden rays gliding across wet stone and fluttering banners. The world feels new again. The rain that soaked the earth has left behind little puddles that sparkle like silver coins. The dirt paths are soft underfoot, and the village, wrapped in mist, seems to breathe, slow, calm, alive, inside the church. Monks murmur their morning prayers. Their voices rise and fall in steady rhythm, blending perfectly with the tolling bells outside. Candles flicker on the altar, their flames trembling slightly in the cool air. The scent of beeswax and incense fills the small stone chamber, and, for a moment, it feels as though time itself has paused to listen. Beyond the church walls, life stirs. A farmer opens his door and steps out, stretching his arms wide as he looks over his damp fields. His boots sink a little in the mud, but he smiles anyway. The rain has been kind, the soil is rich, and the crops will thank him later. Nearby, his wife scatters feed for the hens, shaking her head as the rooster tries to peck her hand. You'd think he owned the place, she mutters, laughing softly, down by the well. A group of children chase each other through puddles, their laughter echoing against the cottage walls. They slip, splash, and squeal, their cloaks muddy and dripping. One of them looks up and spots the rainbow faintly arching over the castle. A promise that the storm has truly gone. It's a gentle, quiet kind of morning, the sort where everything feels right again. If you wander through the village lanes, you'd see craftsmen beginning their work. The blacksmith's forge crackles to life, sparks glowing orange in the misty light. The rhythmic clink of hammer on metal mixes with the low hum of the baker's oven. Someone sharpens a scythe. Someone else hangs laundry that will never dry fast enough. A horse stamps its hooves near the stable, shaking off raindrops from its mane. Cats stretch lazily on stone doorsteps. And in the nearby field, sheep graze peacefully, steam rising from their wool in the cool air. It's as if the whole village is sighing in relief, grateful for the soft light after the dark and stormy night. Up at the castle, things are stirring too. Servants are already moving through the halls, carrying trays of bread, honey, and warm ale for breakfast. The great hearth crackles back to life, filling the hall with that familiar orange glow. The lady of the castle stands by the window of her chamber, looking out at the valley below. She smiles faintly, watching villagers go about their mourning. The mist rolling away like a lifted curtain. She's seen hundreds of mornings like this, storms that come and go, seasons that turn, yet each dawn feels like a small miracle. There's something comforting about how steady it all is. The rhythm never breaks. Night follows day, rain brings growth, and bells always ring to mark another beginning. The bells ring again, softer now, fading into the distance, and the forest on the horizon begins to glow with new light. Drops of water cling to the branches, catching the sunrise like tiny jewels. Birds stir in the trees, shaking their feathers, ready to sing again. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear the faint rustle of a story ending. The storm, the castle, the nights, the fireside tales, all slowly settling into the stillness of morning. It's the kind of calm that seeps deep into your bones, whispering that everything is fine, that life, in its slow, muddy, beautiful way, goes on. Somewhere, a monk finishes his prayer and closes his book. A child yawns and curls up again under a blanket, ignoring the rooster's next performance. And you, well, you might be drifting too. After all, there's something hypnotic about this dawn. The soft toll of bells, the crackle of fresh fires, the hum of a village reborn. It's not dramatic or grand, just peaceful, like the world taking a deep breath after the rain. So, as the sunlight warms the wet earth and the last bits of mist melt away, let's just stay here for a while longer. Let's listen to the bells fade, to the birds waking up, to the sound of life quietly starting over. Because in medieval England, just like now, every storm ends with morning, and every morning, no matter how small, feels like a new story waiting to begin. The rain has passed. The kingdom, washed and shining, breathes under a bright new sky. The cobblestones glisten like silver ribbons winding through the village, and every leaf, every blade of grass, still holds a tiny drop of morning light. The world smells of clean earth and fresh beginnings. You can almost feel the calm, that lovely stillness that comes after the storm, the kind that makes you want to just breathe and listen. The castle sits proudly on its hill, its walls damp but glowing softly under the sun. The flags, once heavy with rain, now wave lazily in a gentle breeze. Down below, the fields stretch wide and green, dotted with tiny flowers that seem to have appeared overnight. The meadows hum quietly, bees, birds, the soft rustle of wind through wildflowers. And somewhere in the distance, faint but clear, a church bell rings once more. It doesn't sound like the bells from before, not urgent, not warning of thunder. No, this one feels like a sigh, a slow, peaceful sound, rolling across the hills like a good morning wish from the heart of the kingdom itself. Villagers are already at work, but there's an easy rhythm to it now. A baker hums a tune as he kneads his dough. A young shepherd whistles to his sheep. Two children run down the lane, laughing and pretending to sword fight with sticks, knights, in their own little world. Even the animals seem to sense the calm. The horses in the stables stamp their hooves softly, tails flicking lazily. The hens wander freely in the sunshine, and the village cat stretches luxuriously on a warm patch of stone, completely ignoring the chaos it probably caused the night before in the castle courtyard. Servants hang damp cloaks on lines strung between walls. The air is cool, but the sun is kind. The stone courtyard smells of wet moss and bread from the kitchens. A squire polishes a shield, humming quietly, while a knight nearby sharpens his sword with the look of a man who'd rather still be in bed. And somewhere, the lady of the castle walks through the gardens. The rain has left the roses jeweled with dew, and the herbs smell sharp and sweet under her touch. She pauses for a moment, looking up at the sky, blue again, with only a few lazy clouds drifting by. She smiles. The world feels new. If you follow the path down past the village and through the meadow, you'll find the stream that runs clear again after the rain. The stones beneath the water shine, smooth and dark, and the current whispers softly as it moves. A frog leaps from one rock to another, vanishing into the reeds. The world is alive, and everything, somehow, is in its right place. It's the kind of morning that makes people thankful. Thankful for roofs that held against the rain, for fires that stayed warm, for good bread and strong tea. Thankful for another day, and maybe in quiet moments. Thankful for the story itself. Because every storm has its ending, and every night its dawn. And now, as the kingdom wakes under the sun, it feels like time to rest. The narrator's voice softens, like the day itself exhaling. You can almost imagine standing on a hill, looking down at the whole land, the castle, the cottages, the meadows, all of it glowing in that perfect morning light. You hear the wind brushing past your ears, gentle and cool, carrying the scent of wet grass and wood smoke. And just when the world feels too peaceful to move, the church bell rings again, slower this time, like the final heartbeat of the story. Each tone stretches out into the air, rolling through valleys and fading into blue. Somewhere, a monk closes the chapel door. A farmer calls to his son. A dog barks at nothing in particular, because, well, dogs have to keep the order, even in paradise. The narrator chuckles softly. It's all right, he says. The kingdom's awake now. Everyone's fine. Even the roosters already backed to shouting about it. And with that, the rain, the one that started this whole long night, feels like a dream from another life. Its song has ended, but its echo lingers in every puddle, every leaf, every memory of the dark turning to light. The roads shimmer as sunlight spills across them. The castle walls, the market stalls, even the simple wooden doors of cottages, all seem to smile in the glow of the new day. There's no rush, no noise, no chaos, just the steady rhythm of life returning, calm, bright, and whole. And maybe that's what the old storytellers meant when they said, the land itself remembers, that even when storms rage and nights grow long, the stones of England keep their stories, the laughter, the prayers, the footsteps, and yes, even the sound of rain. So, as the morning deepens and the sound of birds fills the sky, the narrator offers one last thought, not grand, not poetic, just simple and true. The rain has passed, but its song still echoes in the stones of old England. And as the kingdom sleeps once more, so may you. The wind stirs one last time. A church bell rings faintly in the distance. And then, quiet, only the soft sounds remain. A few birds, the gentle sigh of the breeze, the whisper of leaves against stone. It's the sound of peace, the sound of home, the sound of a new day in the kingdom.